Welcome back to Spilling the Tea. Got a great guest today, as usual. So
That's right.
we've had the second best from DIS, right, coming in. So now, we had Don Benton.
Second best.
We had the B team, so we stepped up with the A team.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely an upgrade.
That's right,
Yes,
exactly. So we got Ray Girdler in here, and we'll talk position, what your title is, and all that. But I guess the big question I have, so through COVID, most folks grew the hair, which Don did.
Oh, yes.
He's looking. I don't know, what would you call that, like meatloaf or I think Nacho Libre probably in that area.
He's got kind of like a Big Lebowski feel to him.
Oh, yeah.
But he's also got his own brand.
He does.
It's a little bit of just Benton.
It is, yeah. And so here you come back. I see you for the first time after COVID, and you have no hair. So
See, when you have two people in the office as close as like you two, you
Yeah.
can
Right.
balance each other out.
Yeah.
exactly.
So the longer he went, the shorter I went,
I got you.
just to kind of keep the equilibrium.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Hey,
hey,
well,
there
hey,
you
it
go.
works.
Now,
Yeah,
hey,
right.
now we know. Right. So Ray, great to have you. We got Ray Girdler. So what is your official title over there?
Oh, my official title is Director of Data Use and Privacy. But,
Right.
the department, we like big titles.
Exactly.
Oh, that's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
And you've been, how long have you been over there?
Oh, I think it's my 6th year.
6 year. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty much a veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I started
hey.
to say I've been at the co-op. This is year 6 for me. That's what I was going to say. So you are a veteran. Have been at the department that long, or that department of the department, I guess would be the way to say that.
Yes and yes.
Okay.
So,
All right.
I've been with Research and Technology since I came on,
Okay.
and I'm on with Research and Technology today.
So what'd you do before that?
Oh, I worked at the North Little Rock School District as the Data Analysis and Testing Administrator,
Okay.
and started off, one of the people was like, "How did you get this job?" And I think my boss looked at me and was like, "He's got a good back,"
Right.
because it was all paper back then, and
Right.
we were doing all of our testing in house,
Yeah.
all of our
Right.
interim testing too. So I was pretty much just running a print shop
Right.
in a
Wow.
warehouse and doing truck runs, and the next thing they know,
Yep.
we're online, and I was there for all that, and with the e-school upgrade, and I don't know, it's just one of those things where at the time you're just trying to get work done, and I'm grateful for all the experiences I had when new
Right.
technology was coming out. And
So when you jumped in at North Little Rock, I mean, did you jump into the quote unquote technology department? Was that it, or?
no, it was all curriculum at the time.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't. I mean, we were paper testing, and the only technology we used, nobody even saw. That's when we were using like D2SE, PCG, for people who remember that.
Right.
And so we were running Scantrons. I had Scantron machines
Oh
going
my
everywhere.
gosh.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would call that
Wait.
tech.
No.
All the
no.
new educators are like, Scantron, what?
Yeah.
Oh, they got no idea.
Yeah.
Right. Well, back then it was technology. I guess.
Yeah.
Kinda.
Gotta
right.
afford it.
So let's go back a little bit. What's your degree when you?
Before that, I started as a math teacher.
Oh, okay.
I got
Gotcha.
a math background. I
Yeah.
started teaching in.
See,
Yeah.
math teacher.
Oh, see, that's how we
Yeah.
get along.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
see?
I'm in trouble.
Yeah, you are in trouble. So
Usually
where'd
when
you
they-
teach?
I taught at North Little Rock, so
Awesome.
I got my first job at North Little Rock, working at Ridge Road Middle Charter School, and it was a really unique experience. It was actually a charter school. It was a conversion charter, so we were still part of the district,
Right.
Right.
and the whole school was based on the Ruby Payne model. So I got to work in a school that which was really neat.
Yeah.
And, I worked there for about 4 years, and then I went to the high school for a year. Then I went back down to be the GT facilitator for a year.
Oh wow.
Then they consolidated, and I actually got this is crazy, but I actually got a RIF letter.
Wow.
That's when I started looking. I was like, oh, there's a job at central office. Might as well shoot for it.
Yeah.
Got to find
Right.
a home.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And it was actually one of my teacher. I was like, there's no way they're gonna hire some 28-year-old at
Right.
central office. So that just never happened. She goes, you never know, right?
Right.
And I did, and I was, and
Wow.
Look where you are.
Yeah.
Huh?
yeah.
It's meant to be.
So when you got in there, I mean, was it one of those like, I goofed around and got the job, now what kind of things, or what?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it's like every job. You get in there, and you're
Right.
like, oh, I think I got this, and about
Yeah.
2 weeks in, you're like,
Yeah.
I don't think I could say what I was thinking, but you know
Right.
what I'm
Sure.
saying.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and honestly, that's I mean, that's kind of been I've been through that experience all the way up. Probably, it's just a matter of throwing your name in there, and once you do get the job, you're like, oh, okay, now what?
Everybody thinks they know what you do,
Right.
until you do what you do. And you're
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
there's so much more to this than what I
Right.
thought was to the job. So.
Yeah, I think there's two kinds of people. You got people in there that will admit they don't know what they're doing, and you got people that lie and tell you they got this covered. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, and they're sweating it.
Oh yeah, they're sweating it. Yeah, for
I
sure.
Do you miss
100%.
teaching at all? A little bit?
I get that question quite a bit. I think you probably do too. Whenever
Yeah, I
you
do.
leave the
I do.
classroom, they're like, "Why did you ever leave the classroom?" And that's a really hard question because I don't know that it ever really leaves you.
Right.
It's so
I
much.
agree.
It's so much of your identity. And I mean, this may sound cheesy, but for me, I'm blessed to work in an administrative role, and I have a lot of staff that work for me. And I didn't think I was going to get that feeling back whenever, when you see kids develop, but in a leadership role, you get to see that in your staff.
Yes,
And
you're right.
and that feeling of being fulfilled is like, oh, okay. And when I feel them, they can feel the next person. And I think what we do at the department, maybe it doesn't reach the face-to-face to kids, but I think the better service we can provide, the more you all feel. And there's just, as we
Can
give
have
more,
an
everybody
impact.
else can give
Yeah.
more. And, that's what the world's all about.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, definitely. We talk about that a lot, at the co-op level and DESE for sure. But it's as you look big picture, I feel like we're probably impacting more kids than you would, sitting in a classroom. And I know teachers, no doubt about it. I mean, they're called, and I appreciate what they do. For sure, but the thing that I absolutely love about the position that I'm in, and like I said, the administrative jobs that you guys hold, what you do, you have one of those ripple effect jobs.
Yeah.
Every decision that we make, I think, we serve 22 districts, and with that being said, I think we talk about that a lot, and we have to think through some things, but I think. At the end of the day, that's how we have to look at it. I mean, we have Kirby sitting over here, and then we have Benton and Bryant. So we want to make sure that we're making the best decisions for all schools.
Do you ever just pause? I mean, it feels so when you're come to your work day to day, it just feels so normal. Do you ever just pause and kind of look back and be like, when you say 22 schools, like,
Yeah.
you realize like you carry that around with you. And
Yeah.
sometimes, and this is kind of silly, but even when I started off, I did a lot of software systems at the department. Not so much now, but just to think like my account can open up like
Right.
Yeah.
so many records, and just seeing what all is impacted. I probably shouldn't have said that on the
Right.
I think I just made myself a cyber target.
No.
I also said not anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have any.
Yeah.
anymore, don't
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
right.
mean, I don't know. I told Darren and I have talked about this, but I always thought I'd teach, forever. And I just said, well, God, I guess has other plans. I mean, people that went to school with me, they were like, you are a principal, because that is not something that, you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
feel like it's just what you're meant to do or whatever. But I love teaching, even as a principal. I loved it if I'd get to go into a classroom, and it was especially math classroom. If they're like, hey, could you fill in? I'm like, sure, get a little teacher fix. But then somebody was like, would you want to go back? And I'm like, no, I would not. It's hard work.
Yeah.
It is really
It
hard.
is.
I mean, it's just, but it is fulfilling. And I feel like just teachers are just so important,
Yeah, definitely.
But I do feel like in our areas that we have, we do affect a lot.
yeah.
When you can affect, 22 districts and leaders that are over, 500, 1,000 students, then it does have a huge trickle down effect.
So day to day, what are your responsibilities? I mean, I know that's kind of a loaded question, but if you could sum that up, what would you say your day to day stuff is?
Yeah, it kind of feels like a setup. When we started, day to day 6 years ago was a lot of student GPS, if you're familiar with that product, and
Right.
Dark Soul Student Intervention System, but that's back when AIPs were required.
Right.
And then since then, it's kind of transitioned away. And those systems are actually this year, it was announced that they're going to be sunsetted. And so much of my time, that's one of those things where I was like,
Right.
what happened when I got down there, I mean, honestly, 90% of my job is people.
Right.
Yeah.
So much of the job is this, it's networking.
Right.
We have, I mean, on the team, I mean, my different team members do different things, but
Right.
most of my job is answering questions, supporting my staff, and
Right.
supporting the co-ops and trying to figure out
Right.
what the needs are and putting the right people in the right spot.
Sure. Well, and I'll say this, just, having been, on the superintendent side before taking this seat, watching the progression of being able to sit down and make sense of a lot of the information that's out there. I know for many, many years that information was out there, but nobody utilized it. And then I would say within the last, 5 years, if not 10 years, you guys have done an excellent job of convincing, administrators, it's here and this is how you can use it. And this is how you can use it to impact student growth and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I think that's what's so interesting when we talk about data at the department, because it's not just, and this is one of the things we were talking about with like LEA Insights.
Right.
It's not just one department.
Right.
And even down on our end, like it takes specialists, whether it be in finance or whether it be in public school accountability, even if we can get it to a dashboard where you can see it, people still need help making sense out of it. Mm-hmm. And it's just really interesting, like how big of it's one of those things like when you I imagine when you become a superintendent, you figure out how things work, and then everybody has an opinion of how they think it works, and then you get there and you're like, same thing at the department. Like I think even at a school level, when you're in education your whole time, then you go down and you're like, oh, like I thought I knew these data systems. Like I was a math person. I was a data analysis. I thought I knew how these data systems work, and then I get up there and I realized, oh, it looks different from this vantage point. Like it looks different. You're making different kinds of decisions, and I think one of the things that really stood out to me is how complex, how much we have data coming in from everywhere, how complex it is and how it is to make sense out of it. And I think, I mean, that's the struggle for schools is trying to figure out like where to focus your energies on the right pieces of data at the right time.
Right.
And I think it's just something we work towards together. And
yeah. Well, and the thing, I will say this that I appreciate. I mean, if somebody calls you and says, hey, we need a certain piece of data, I mean, you guys work extremely hard to get that back to the school district. And, I mean, you're big enough people to say, if you don't have it, you'll say, well, hadn't thought about that, but let us try to see if we can get there. Because with, 250 school districts or whatever it is here in the state of Arkansas, you're not going to think of probably everything. But when they call and say, hey, we need this, and you're able to work that out, I mean, everybody benefits from that.
Yeah, I think it's so important whenever you say that is to make sure that people are reaching out. Because here's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter what we try to predict other people's hats.
Right.
But you don't know what you need unless you wear it.
Right.
So, like, at the department, we, like, a lot of the systems they have created or the reports they've created, a lot of them they were created with their hat on. They're like, hey, we need to make sure the schools can see this because we need them to see this.
Right.
But there are unique situations in which you all are trying to solve that aren't necessarily the department's duties, but it doesn't mean we don't want to help.
Right.
And so communicate, like we don't know those unless you communicate.
Right.
And the same thing for the principals up to the co-ops.
Right.
If you all can, if they can communicate to you all so you know what they need, because we all fall into that.
Right.
And they don't know what we need, so we
Exactly.
just got to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're great because I'm like, I call all the time. Last week I was like, I'm sorry, I'm high maintenance this week. But they're so helpful all the time.
We would never say that to your face.
I know, but I know
To
you are
your
thinking
face.
it behind the back. Yeah. They're like, oh,
That's okay, I
Candace
say it too.
again? Are
Yeah,
you serious?
yeah,
What does she want
exactly.
now?
Yeah. A lot of times I just lock my door and it takes care
whatever.
of all that
Whatever.
stuff. So. But yeah, you guys, I mean, how big is the team over there that you guys have, your department over there?
So with research and technology, we're actually one of the smallest divisions because we have Carmen's team. Carmen leads our AppScan student side.
Right.
And so she probably has, and I hope she doesn't get me later, but I want to say about 20, 25.
Right.
And then on my team, we have about 10 folks that work out of the Southwest Co-op. And we have about 10 more that are with the digital learning unit. We just picked them up recently, and they're kind of mainly out of the Arkansas River Co-op. So that's what's really interesting is that's 20 employees that are all
Right.
co-op, you know, and
Right.
then about,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're about 40 altogether.
Awesome.
Well, and then I know one thing that Candace, she talks a lot about is smack talk. I mean, she absolutely loves
I
smack
do.
talk.
I told him today. I think
yeah.
it's great. I
Yeah.
just sent it to in my Bennett's Benevolent
did.
Support
Yeah.
email. I told
Yeah.
Ray what Benevolent
I
Support
appreciate
was.
the love there.
Yeah.
You know, and we both like catchy names.
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
we could tell everybody they're talking smack to
Yeah.
their kids.
Yeah.
I was like, I like that. You know, it's got
Yeah.
a little bit of a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But-
go ahead and tell us about that, how it came about, that kind of thing.
So Smack Talk stands for the Social Media Awareness Campaign, and it really came about. There was actually, I mean, it's a discussion we've had for a long time. It's something that was on Don's heart before he came. Something he kind of brought with him, with internet safety.
Right.
And so there was actually an incident that happened up in Northwest Arkansas. And these events happen all the time, but this is the one
Right.
that triggered. And it was in the situation in which a girl was taken advantage of or sexually assaulted is a better word for it on Roblox. It just so happens that she was on that site because it was a recommendation from someone at the school. And they said, hey, you know, I think the kid was struggling to meet friends. She was like, hey, you know, a lot of people your age meet friends on Roblox. And that just happened to be where she met this predator. And it caught up a lot of attention up in Northwest. And, you know, sometimes you never know how those things hit, but sometimes those hit the legislators or, you
Right.
know, catch the eye of Johnny Key or things like that. You just never know, but sometimes it just triggers you. And that was one of the things, I don't know that it was a trigger, but it sparked a discussion when it hit the news again. Like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing or what
Right.
can we do
Right.
to kind of be positive, have a positive force in that space? And Donna and I were actually doing a book study at the same time. Similar topic, and we had all the, we call them the ACTCs, the Co-op Technology Coordinator. Michael was a part
Right.
of that. And we're just like, hey, you know, this happened. This is kind of the discussion right now. What can we do? And it just started us off small. I think that's what's one of the things when people see programs, they don't realize it. We actually started really small. They're like, well, what can we do? And then we're just like, well, we want to do something, and let's start putting out just some tips and awareness. And now it's grown to a point where we have a group that is focused on teachers, a group that's focused on parents, and a group that's focused on students. And each of us try to go about our own kind of avenues, because teachers are going to get their information one way, parents
Right.
are going to get it another, and you can't use Facebook to hit them all.
Right.
Right.
It just doesn't work.
That's right.
So we're being, nor do they respond to the same kind of things. And that's one of the things that's been really interesting to us, and it's really stretched us.
Right.
Like, I don't know that I've ever been. Another part that really has been really interesting about Smack Talk is the number of people who are invested. I mean, you were asking me about bullying earlier, which, you know, then that overlaps
Sure.
with cyberbullying, which is kind of some
Right.
of the stuff. And we got media specialists. We have our SROs.
Right.
We have, it's crossing over with Cassandra at the department, the counselors do a lot of
Right.
that stuff
Right.
too. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, the next thing I know, we've had all kinds of guest speakers and people are just responding to, like, oh yeah, this is a good idea. We would love to help. And
Right.
It's great info.
it's just been really,
really
insightful to see people who are looking to engage, looking to invest, and just trying to, you know, part of that tool. That's one of the things when Dawn's been there about just really focusing on that support and how can we help when we can help.
Right.
And I don't know that everybody's ready to put out like every single thing that we do, but
Sure.
I do like the idea of, like, whenever they are ready as an organization, we have a place that they can start.
Right.
And we
Right.
hope they don't stop there.
Right.
But we hope that, you know what, if I want to post something on social media about this, I have something I can post and get the word out to our parents. And
Right.
I wouldn't underestimate what a small action like that can do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Well, and you know, we've really that's been really one of our priorities this year too, has been social media, and we've got a person, you know, kind of dedicated to that, but yeah, like you're saying, it's been very helpful, I think, because people will repost or what have you, and they'll get back in contact with us, and we're able to link up to Smack Talk or other things, and so it's, you know, it's amazing for an old guy like me to see, but it really does. It helps get the message out to many more people in a much faster fashion, you know.
Yeah, when you give it life, you just never know where it's going to touch.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, recently we have a guest come on. Her name's Ebony Mitchell. And it was just one of those similar things. She was posting. She's doing her own thing for Miss Arkansas. She was Miss Arkansas runner-up last year. And my wife said, "Hey, have you seen this?" And she showed me this picture of this girl that's doing internet safety and is former runner-up Miss Arkansas. I was like, "That's pretty cool. I'm gonna randomly contact her. She's a
Right.
friend of a friend,
Right.
but that I went to high school with 20 years ago,
Right.
25
Yeah.
years ago."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I don't know." And she just picks up on it. And she was on our last podcast,
Wow.
as well. And it's just so interesting,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know,
it-
where it can take you when you give it life.
I just
Yeah.
think anything that will help parents and kids, I don't know. I got a heart for that too. There's just
Yeah.
so much we've seen, so much stuff with social media, how it can just tear down. So I think anything positive and helpful is good.
Mhm.
I think the hardest thing in trying to do something like that, whether it be at the department or at the co-op, is when you know that like you're in the right spot. How do you do it the most effective way?
Mhm.
And I think that's what's always like when you know you have something good, you know you have a good idea,
Right.
but how do you do it in a way that really, you know, makes it to the hands of those people? I mean, that's one of the things that is so hard.
Yep.
Sitting at the ivory tower, if you want to call it that, and trying to reach all the way
Yeah.
down to the teacher and be like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
"Hey, you know," or even the principal sometimes. All
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think the thing about social media is that, you know, it can be done, you know, much faster, I think, than some of the more traditional ways of reaching folks. And I've seen more interaction, you know, with folks at the school level. So I think that has helped it a lot because just like today, we've had a district reach out on a specific topic. And that's the first thing we do. I mean, we go look and say, hey, we don't necessarily have somebody for that, but we went
What can
on
we-
social
yeah,
media.
What can we do? Yeah.
We start looking. So, and I think that's exactly what you know teachers do, and they're looking for, you know, a couple of things. Number one, a topic, but number two, and most importantly, is a trusted source with that topic. So. Because I mean, you can find anything you want, I guess, out there, and some things you don't want, right? So,
Definitely.
yeah. So as far as, you know, future plans, I mean, where do you see maybe the work that you all are doing progressing?
Oh, I mean, I think for our Smack Talk, I think what we see is just trying to reach more people and reaching them in the right. We know we have the right message, but how do we really have an impact? I think one of the other pieces I've been like, where does our division go, or where is it going? I really feel under Don, one of the things that came under him, which was kind of in my opinion, kind of a forgotten group, was the techs and the roles that techs play.
Right.
And I think it was really serendipitous the time that he came in and how they folded under him right before the pandemic hit.
Right.
And being able to give them a voice and to be able to give them a support at the department level, I think has been really essential to what, you know, and helping the department grow or meet the needs of school districts. I mean, because we don't have to hash out how much of our schools have changed technology-wise in the last 2 years, but it's been an explosion. And I really see, like, if there's a place where we see our efforts or where we're really investing our time and efforts is trying to figure out ways to increase broadband, increase cybersecurity, increase training for our techs when possible, and things like that. I mean, it's actually a really interesting discussion if we wanted to go there, and that is, you know, where does classified staff fit into the development of schools
Right.
and in education? But that's definitely where we find ourselves with techs and trying to figure out, you know, how do we, and I need to declare, like, they've been working together already. We have HISD, we have ACOT,
Right.
but to have that department support, I just think it adds an extra layer of
Oh yeah.
what they're able to do, how fast they can get there, and
Yeah.
to know that we support them.
Well, and I think, you know, you mentioned COVID, and obviously Arkansas, I think, was a little bit ahead of the game. I mean, you look at all the states that surrounded us, and a couple of them, I guess, were kind of like us. But I mean, really, by and large, you know, when this thing is all said and done, hopefully there will be I'd like to see the numbers of the states and how long they were, you know, completely virtual. versus the ones that were not. I had a convention that I spoke at or what have you, and talking to one of the other speakers, lived in Chicago, but literally had to leave the state to move to Indiana to get his son enrolled in a school because Chicago or Illinois wasn't going to open up. So, I know we were out for a while, but for the most part, after that initial school closure semester, I guess, but that's a credit to the work you guys did in preparing, like you're saying, the text, those kinds of people.
Well, I think one of the things that's so interesting, where you sit kind of determines what you see. And I didn't come up with that. But when you sit at the co-op, you realize, all schools don't look alike. You already kind of expressed that. But when you're working in a district, you don't mean to. Everybody doesn't look like you, but you still kind of think that way.
Sure.
And then the same thing is true at the department. You think that everybody, that's one of the things I think has been amazing is I had opinions of the State Department before I went. We all do.
Right.
Then I get down there and you look at other states and you're like, you know what? That's one of the things that was like kind of aha. It's not just with COVID, just in so many ways. When you look at our state compared to other states, and I'm not saying we're number one,
right,
but we're looking pretty damn good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And there's a lot of things that we're doing that no one else is doing.
Right.
And when you see that, you just get a lot of pride.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And what you see and what we're doing. And I think that is a really good example of how we were poised for AMI.
Yep.
That put us in a really good spot. Our partnership with Arkansas Ideas and putting some of that curriculum out there.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it was just it's one of those things like we said earlier, like when we see tech, we think it's not just our team, but it's so many pieces that went into it and trying to make sure it's out. But, having that statewide LMS for, like Arkansas Ideas for professional development and being partnered with the cable station, that was awesome. And then just all the way across between, when you think about our schools, I think one thing's really interesting about how we have the statewide broadband, we have the single e-school, e-finance system that offers a lot of support and allows to streamline the data. I don't know if people realize, like, in states that are panicking on how to report some of this stuff, we're just folding it in and folding it out. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that, Arkansas educators see is actually above and beyond what's required.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And some people are many states are still struggling to meet just the requirements.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're trying to figure out innovative ways to really help our districts push forward, not just with data, but also with technology. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I was, I think about, some of the things even, I live out in the Jesseville area, but I think how creative they've gotten. For instance, they worked out a deal with the church, that on out into the community, out into the county, where they were able to put a server out there, send a bus or what have you, and so at a certain time they could, parents could pull up and get those online lessons done. So you're right, and in some states around us, they struggle really. Just to be able to light anything up. So
yeah. And I don't think we're struggle free, but
right.
I definitely believe in the educators that we have and the work that we're trying to do. What they're doing really is special. And honestly, when we go out and we talk about what Arkansas is all about, it really is a lot more about bragging about what our schools and districts are doing.
Right. Yeah.
It's just funny. We're telling strangers. Sometimes we don't get the chance to tell them, we're talking about you all.
Sure, right.
Even like that story.
Right.
And
exactly.
There's another one out in the Archford area where one of the whole district communities offers free internet to the entire community. I think that's one of the things, I think people look back on COVID and they'll analyze the good and the bad.
Right.
But one of the things that has been universal as far as good from principals to technologists is it really has pushed how we use education in the classroom.
Yep.
It has taken reluctant teachers that may have been intimidated by things like Zoom or distance learning, and whether or not they are, experts in it, they're definitely more versed now than what they were. Even 2 years ago. And I know it's been super stressful, but I think there's things that we're going to keep from it. Like I think there's going to be a lot of relief when it goes away.
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to change or will change or has changed how we do education in the future.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because
I agree.
even what you were talking about with being able to go to Jessville and download.
Right.
Why don't they need that all the time?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even
Right.
before the pandemic, we used to hear of schools shutting down due to whooping cough outbreak or
Right.
flu
Yeah, sure.
outbreak. And so,
Right.
Right.
not that it was to the severity, but we actually, and that's one of the things, like when you're sitting at the
Right.
apartment, you think things that would never happen, we see all the time.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Left.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing was, obviously, with some of the funding that came down to address those needs with COVID, and obviously, wasn't anything anybody was expecting, but using that money for those types of things, I think will allow them in the future to be able to keep on keeping on, and I think, like you're saying, there are lots of things that came out of all this mess that definitely. People are going to hold on to, and they realize, why didn't we have this before? It's a great thing. Not only keep it, but let's build on it. And that's a lot of times maybe it takes something like that to realize we didn't know what we didn't know. And the other thing I think too, we've talked about this. There's still competition. Don't get me wrong, but the schools have really come together. I know in our co-op. When we sit down at the table together, everybody's sharing. Hey, this is the problem. Help me figure this out. And it's been pretty cool to watch that. I think.
It's really neat.
And I know that crisis mindset is, a very stressful one. I read something recently. It was talking about that's where innovation happens. A lot of innovation does happen through a crisis. I think one of the things that'll be to challenge us as educators in the future is why couldn't we have this innovation without the crisis?
Yeah, yeah.
So how can we have that crisis mindset before the crisis happens?
Right.
I think that's an interesting idea and a challenge, but
yeah. And that's the thing. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that's come out of all of this is that, like you're saying, is that crisis mindset. But hopefully, if and when this thing goes away, that's one thing that they'll carry forward is seeing that the decisions that we made there, it's okay to make those kinds of decisions day to day.
oh yeah, it is.
If it's
still
good, it works. Let's do it.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think that we're in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. You know what I'm saying? I never dreamed that would happen ever in my lifetime.
Well, that's one of those things that, and you'll have to forgive me, but we're talking. I think one of the things that's always interesting to me is when we're talking about mental health and what's going on in our kids today and those kinds of things. And, but I have to stop and reflect. I wonder what it was like for the generation before me when they were having bomb threats and hiding under their desk.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, it's a first time.
Yeah.
But it's not the first time that our nation has had to go through,
Right.
Some serious, you know what I mean? I know it's our first pandemic,
Right.
but it's not our first crisis
Right.
necessarily. And
Yeah.
I'll forever be impacted by 9/11.
Yeah.
That was what really hit me
For sure.
whenever I was young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say this is the 9/11 because they're completely different.
Right.
But it was a moment in which it changed
Yeah.
life as we knew it afterwards.
Yeah, you're
And I think the same is true here. And
Yeah. For sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing about public school people, very resilient.
Oh,
They
all the time.
You hear it, monitor and adjust, but that's truly it. They do. They have to.
they have to.
That's
one of the things I don't think everybody should go into education, but I'm so grateful you asked about being in the classroom. I know that I got so much from being in the classroom
So did I.
as a teacher. And I
Right.
think one of the things that I realized is I didn't realize as a classroom teacher how many of those skills transferred over to the real world.
Right.
And I know that everybody says just not a teacher.
Sure.
It's easy to say, but that's not how you feel.
right. Exactly.
Exactly.
And then I get into a role, even that I'm today, I'm like, oh my goodness, this reminds me of
yeah.
high expectations.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
what teachers do in and out every day is no less than what a CEO does
Oh, right.
when they
Yeah.
come into,
Yeah.
100% agree.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Well, and above all else, too, I think it as a teacher, it really gives you an appreciation for just, the general population out there. It takes, not everybody comes from the same background, socioeconomic, cultural, all those things. And so it does give you a sense of, how to handle lots of things.
I absolutely agree with that. And interestingly, I think that's one of the things I learned working where I work now, is I think one of the most enlightening things was just traveling across the state.
Right. Yeah.
And going from northeast to northwest to southeast to southwest, and how unique those communities are.
Yeah.
It really has been similar ideas. Like there's so many schools that are trying to do and solve unique problems in their area, and it's just so mind opening when I drive from Conway to Little Rock. That's not that's not what our state looks like.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of our state, even if it may be a large chunk of our population, but the majority of our state doesn't look like Conway on the interstate going to Little Rock.
Right. Yeah.
Listen, I just drove to the state basketball tournament, talked my husband into taking me to Junction City. I'd never been there before. I was like 2.5 hours. It was crazy, but I mean, there's just places you've like never been, never seen,
Yeah.
You just see all kinds of things that you didn't even know existed. I remember one of the most amazing gyms I ever been to was in an Alma.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, I'm walking through that place. I was like, this is nicer than UALR. I was like,
yeah.
What's going on here? I mean, there's just pockets of everything across our state. And
Yeah.
getting to see
Really
those
neat.
communities and get to hear them talk about how proud they are. And, it's just an amazing feeling and opportunity.
Yeah, and it's the thing that amazes me too. A lot of these smaller schools and how they stretch that dollar to become very innovative. I mean, it's to me that will never get old either. I mean, I've been in some small districts, but they make it happen.
I think that's part of what you were talking about, like the things you are as a teacher. If you're a teacher, you take those things into being an administrator.
Right.
Everybody's trying. I mean, they can do a lot with little.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's what's really amazing about educators,
Oh,
no matter where they're sitting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as we wind down, we always like to get, we have a little bit of
He's like, oh no.
fun.
Oh yeah, it's getting hot.
Oh no, here
No,
it comes.
Oh,
here it
it's
comes.
getting warm over here.
Well, one of the things so what do you do for fun? I mean, when you're not working, you get the occasional time off. What do you like to do?
Oh, this isn't a good answer.
Yeah,
I feel like
could be.
I like to work out.
Do you?
So when I'm not working, I like to work out.
Yeah.
It's a good stress reliever for me.
Right.
I like to read. I do a lot of a lot of my job's social. I'm not a natural extrovert.
Right.
Even though I fool some people
Yeah.
sometimes.
Right.
But whenever I get free time, I go in. And it's funny because I feel like every activity I'm going to tell you about, it's like, don't you like work out? That's alone. Reading's alone.
No.
Usually fish alone.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, you just need a little time.
And I have 3 kids,
Oh, yeah.
which isn't a lot, but it's not a little either.
Yeah. So how old are they?
I got me a middle schooler. He's in 8th grade. I got a 5th grader, and I got a 3-year-old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got a little bit of a stretch.
See, I
there.
have one. He has one. So 3's a lot for
that's
me.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3's a lot to you. I ate a lunch with a guy yesterday. His name was Rich, and he's telling about his kids. And finally, I had to ask him a number. He's like 8. I was like, all right.
Gosh.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I cannot
I'm not going to talk about my 3, so it's all relative, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's true.
Yeah, I hung out with enough people that would say, that second one just changes stuff. I mean, I've got 3 siblings. My wife is an only child, and we only had the one. So,
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, you're going from 2 on 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it feels hard at the time. No offense.
Right.
Then when you have the second one, you got to go to man-to-man coverage. You went from zone to man-to-man.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, and then you go 2 to 3, and you're outnumbered now. So like if they get smart, they can take you down.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
and
true.
middle
Well,
school, man, you're right at that fun stage. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least you spread that last one out, so maybe you'll have a little bit of youth on your side when the other 2 get up there. So
I'm about to say that's a lot of the time I spent at home. I was just trying to be a good dad, and
Right.
and my wife's a kindergarten teacher, so
Oh,
I got to
wow.
be there for her. She's always working on the weekends, and so.
Yeah.
So you got to hear all about this past,
She was actually, I know we're winding now, but yeah, she for the Greenbrier School District, she was their virtual kind of K2 teacher for a
Yeah.
while.
Oh, wow, cool. Yeah.
For
That's
that whole year, and this year
Yeah.
she's transitioning back to full time in the
Gotcha.
classroom. But
Yeah.
even the same thing, like things that were like innovative when they were doing these AMI days, it was
Right.
funny. We're at a football game the other day, and some random kid said, "Hey, Mrs. Girdler," and she comes over to me. She goes, "I've never had that kid in my life,"
Yeah.
and she goes, I've snapped so many times.
Yeah.
AMI video.
Yeah.
She goes,
Right.
so she's the one of the most popular
Oh,
teachers
that's-
on campus.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because they're using it's getting a second life.
Sure.
That's
You know, a lot of those
awesome.
recordings. I was like,
Yeah.
man, that's gotta feel good because I know how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it was so much whenever she was doing it day in and day out.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much work goes into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
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 They just think you don't have kids. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Look
Exactly.
at it easy.
Yeah.
So
So, I don't know. I'm thinking random. What's something on your bucket list?
I want to sit courtside at a Celtics game.
Oh
Pretty
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, at Boston Garden.
Yeah.
The hardest part is my kids aren't into sports.
Oh, they're not.
Oh no, they're not.
Yeah.
You're like,
so I'm like, do I
dang.
just spend that on myself?
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those times where I wish they did, so I could be like, what?
Yeah.
I'm doing it for the kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're like, no. I
Yeah.
was like, dang, all right, well, I gotta think of another
like-
strategy. So if anybody has some tips on how to get on the ground,
We'll think of
Well,
something.
They're young enough. There's always hope. Maybe they'll pick it up. You know.
I'm thinking, man, hopefully they'll marry up.
Yeah.
You know what I
there you
mean?
go.
And I can be like,
Yeah. There you go.
That's
See there. At least you got a plan, right? So what about your playlist? That's the other thing we like to get into right here. Musically, what if we hopped in your ride and hit the play button on your playlist? What?
oh, I mean, I listen to Chris Stapleton.
Yeah,
Um,
we've heard that a lot, hadn't
Yeah.
yeah, I like Is it Sturgill?
we? Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of in that range.
Right.
So
right.
I bounce around, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I've been pushing the new guy. I say new. He's not new, but he's been out there a while. Teddy Swims. If you hadn't listened to him, you need to listen to him. 911 is the hot tune from him. He's really kind of Stapleton-esque, I would say.
Darren had some Randy Houser going a
Yeah.
little bit ago.
Yeah.
In the office.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's
Yeah.
this weird genre that's kind of out there right now. It's not rock, it's not country, it's not blues. It's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of fallen into. And
All these YouTube/TikTok sensations doing it their own way, you know. So, and I think that's been the thing that's really kind of caught my attention coming from radio back in the day. When I left radio, I mean CDs were just coming on. You know what I mean, and then we had I say that then they were download. They would download the like the top 30, I guess, and we started playing them off the computers. But I mean, just amazing now. But still, the record companies would push whatever. I mean, you would get an album at a time, but now it doesn't matter. I mean, even the artists are just putting out a single at a time.
I feel like I'm talking about artists about having one in the room, but I definitely feel that way where there's the library's so big.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have more access, or
Oh,
students
yeah.
have more access. Anybody has more access to music that you could
Yeah.
never I could
Ever.
never afford
Right.
the playlist I'm
Right.
listening to on the
Yes.
way home.
Right.
Yes.
But at the same time, I don't get to know the albums in
Right.
the same way that I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
I was thinking
You
about
know,
that the
like
other day.
Yeah.
I could have. I mean, there were certain Beatles albums or Oasis.
Oh, yeah,
If we're
yeah.
getting into songs I listened to in high school.
Sure,
like, I
yeah.
could have sang every single song on that
Yeah,
album.
yeah.
Whereas even Chris Stapleton, I don't
Yeah.
know that I could sing every song on his last
Right.
album.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, so I think it's real interesting the way that it's kind of
Yeah.
pieced together.
Well, Blake Shelton says he'll never cut another LP. He's just going to do it a song at a time. He said, when I feel like cutting a new song, I'm going to cut a new song, put it out there. So,
I mean, why not?
yeah, exactly, I guess. So,
That's kind of how things have changed.
yeah, exactly. Well, man, thanks for coming in today.
Yeah,
We
enjoyed it. Totally.
So, when we're in Little Rock, I'll bring Candace to. She can run and explain all those technical words to me. So
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm just excited that he actually admitted he was old on the podcast, and we got it on recording.
Yeah. yeah.
we're not bleeping that out either, Michael.
That's right. Well, that gray hair I get from Candace.
Yeah.
I know people are tired of hearing this, but we actually student taught together. So
Yeah.
look how she's aged me. So
I like that.
Hey,
Yeah,
out of
sure.
26 years I've worked with you, quite a few actually.
yeah, quite a few. Yeah.
With or for you, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, with. I
Yeah.
think, yeah. I don't know that you've ever worked for me that I can remember, but anyway.
Okay, maybe.
Well, I appreciate y'all having
Yeah.
me. It's
Hey,
been-
we're
right.
so
been a lot
glad you
of fun.
came.
All right, thanks, Ray. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Spilling the Tea in Studio D.